So you want to main Artemis, goddess of the hunt. First, ask yourself, why do you want to main Artemis? Artemis has high single target damage, she's sometimes unstoppable, she's full of damage and CC, she has a boar. Now let's quickly get into the cons of Artemis. Artemis doesn't have good mobility. She's a god that needs safe situations. Artemis heavily relies on her ultimate in bad situations. In this guide, we're going to explore Artemis as an ADC with abilities, combos, builds, counters, and what not to do. Artemis is a Greek hunter in SMITE. SMITE has classified her as an average god. In my opinion, I do find her average, to be honest. After a bit of practice, she actually gets pretty easy. Let's get into Artemis's abilities. Artemis's passive, Still Target. Artemis deals 15% increased basic attack damage to gods and 30% increased damage to minions who are affected by crowd control. This does not include knockbacks, blinds, or grabs. This makes Artemis's passive great to work with in the duo lane, if you're working with a support that has CC like Athena or Ganesh. Her passive works very well with all her abilities. Artemis's first ability, Transgressor's Fate. Artemis's 1 is a ground target ability type. Artemis places up to 3 traps on the ground. Enemy guards who come close to a trap will activate them. It will root and cripple the enemy guard. This will prevent movement abilities and it will deal damage every second for 3 seconds. Targets can take damage from multiple traps at the same time. Cooldown is decreased at each rank by 2 seconds. This ability works great with Artemis's passive as it's also a CC. If you're in reach of the enemy when they're trapped, feel free to basic attack them for that extra damage. You can also place her traps in places where enemies can come into gank at lane entry points. Artemis's second ability, Vengeful Assault. Artemis's 2 is a buff. Artemis will attack at a furious pace, increasing her attack and movement speed significantly. This ability is a great accessory to your passive. It's the closest thing that Artemis has to an escape. You can use this ability as an escape, or if you think you cannot get away from the enemy because they might have more movement speed, you can try basic attacking them to death as well. Artemis's third ability, Suppress the Insolent. Artemis's 3 is a ground target. Artemis fires a bunch of arrows onto the target. Enemies caught in the volley of arrows are damaged and slowed. This ability is also a CC, it works very well with her passive as well. Artemis's ultimate, Caledonian Boar. Artemis's ultimate is an area ability type. Artemis summons a boar on her enemies. The boar will damage the nearest enemy god, stunning them and itself. The boar is immune until he hits the first god and then continues to charge his other god for its lifetime that are in radius. Artemis is immune to CC for 1.5 seconds. This ability is a strong CC for Artemis. Just note that enemies can kill the boar after it becomes vulnerable to despawn it earlier. The boar will also despawn if Artemis dies. Now let's get into leveling abilities. Artemis doesn't have the best clear, so for your first 5 levels, I would put 1 point into your 3, 1 point into your 2, 1 point into your 1 or your 3 if you're having trouble clearing, 1 point into your 3, then your ultimate. After that, I would prioritize by 4 for the stun duration and damage, 3 for the damage increase, 2 for the attack speed increase, 1 for the tick damage increase. So basically, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now let's get into the combos for Artemis. Artemis can make use of Blink if you want a more aggressive playstyle. This is not a must on Artemis as enemies do tend to jump on Artemis either way. But if you have an enemy who is wary of you, Blink may work as Artemis does not have an ability where she can jump into the enemy to use her ultimate, which is rather close range. Blink only works with her ultimate and not her other abilities. For short combos, 3 and 2, this will be your most used combo. 1 and 2. For medium combos, 3, 1, 2. 4, 1, 2. For full combos, 4, 1, 3, 2. I really enjoy using Artemis's combos. Her kit, in my opinion, works very well. Now let's get into the builds. For a standard build, Hunter's Blessing, Devourer's Gauntlet, Warrior Tabi for more power, or Ninja Tabi for more attack speed. This is your preference. I prefer more attack speed, so I opt for Ninja. Poison Star, Executioner, Winged Demon, and Deathbringer. Of course, sometimes there are situational items you need to build. For defense, you can swap out Deathbringer for Magi's Blessing. For dealing with a very tanky team, you can swap out Deathbringer for Titan's Bane. For enemies with more health, you can swap out Deathbringer for Kin Size. Counters for Artemis. Artemis has no mobility, but she does have a 2 that gives her a boost in movement speed. You can use your 1 to help you escape, just drop it in front of you as you're running forward. Her ultimate can also be used as an escape. Beads and Aegis counter Artemis's ultimate. Artemis doesn't have the best clear, so she sometimes gets outcleared against other hunters. What not to do as Artemis. As Artemis has no good mobility, try not to place yourself in bad positions. Do not hold your ultimate in team fights. Your ultimate is a great setup for your allies and does a generous amount of damage. Tips for Artemis. You can place Artemis traps randomly on the ground if you want. Sometimes enemies will walk into the traps. Try and place a trap with gods that have pull abilities. Generally they will pull towards the trap, or you can put a trap under the enemy in the direction your support or ally is pulling them. Most of the time I find enemies will generally stay near their minions when clearing. Sometimes people forget that Artemis clears with her 3 as well. You can clear the minions and also poke the enemies when they're near their minions. And that is all for the Artemis guide. I would like to take a moment to thank Catherine for a generous donation on Ko-fi. Thank you so much for letting me do what I can do on YouTube with the SMITE guides. If you guys would also like to support me that way as well, I'll leave a Ko-fi link down below in the description. Any donations will be shouted out in my next video. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Feel free to subscribe and click the bell if you found this helpful. I'll be making one for every god. Any comments and likes would be super rad. I hope to see you for the next one. Bye!